recording now?
Yes.
Okay. Able to see the screen?
Yes, sir. Sir, it is visual.
Okay.
Sir, your audio is probably on mute.
Yeah, 1 minute. Just a minute. Just a second. I'm just trying to bring out the screen. 1 minute. Okay, then. So I'm having little issues. You're able to hear me, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh, the screen is also visible?
Yes,
Screen
sir.
is visible and we can hear you, sir.
Okay, okay. So this is the third session that I'm having with you all. The first session was more where we discussed the HR and OD interventions. I shared with you examples from my previous experience, both in the public and the private sectors. The public sectors was reference to the performance enhancement programs that I shared with you. And with reference to the private sector, I said, was about the one-to-all program with the GETs, which help in making learning as I know part of the entire organization, particularly starting with the GETs. So today, well, we also covered in the last two sessions various aspects of what makes HR strategies fail or what OD strategies fail. Before that, we also discussed about the reasons why, what are success criteria for the success of or any HR or OD intervention, right? Today, we're going to discuss more about the HR balance scorecard, HR balance scorecard, and what are the metrics that are required to ensure that we get the business results as well. I've also had the experience having been both in SAIL, where we had the Prime Minister's Trophy with Best Integrated Steel Plant competition, where at the time, that was the time, incidentally, when the balance scorecard started and the Malcolm Baldrige Award started. And when I was in Voltas too, it was the Tata Business Excellence Model, again revised in 2001. And you had earlier, they also the CIA Exim Bank model. So there are several models available across the world, based on which a lot of, I would say, contribution has been made, has been by HR, our training and development, to really make their presence felt in the business as well. Hitherto, you also would be aware that HR or training or support is considered as a support function in most respects. Uh, but thanks to the business scorecard and all those interventions, in fact, a lot of focus today over the last decade on sustainability, and this is where HR plays a very big role. In fact, these days it's called green HRM. So whatever activities HR does in sustainability is also under green HRM. That's also what organizations are looking for. Young, job seekers are also looking for those aspects of the organization which are more HR related than business related. In fact, there are cases of good, successful academic candidates or first fresh out of campuses who are looking for such scores in HR, which are making impact on the business as well, not the bottom line and the top line. So today, what we're going to discuss is the syllabus, is what is the business scorecard. So how do we measure the business? It actually says that. And then we have the balance scorecard as an outcome, as one of the ways of measuring the business. Business is not just in terms of what you get financially and what your customers are getting, but also in terms of other aspects, which are the internal processes, which also the learning and development or innovation areas as well. So then we discuss about HR scorecard, which is to align to the balance scorecard. What are the various ways of doing, and other key aspect business analytics into the HR, right? So what are specific analytics? Analytics come a big way these days. It's big data and dashboards that are available, and it's all like just like a pilot has the dashboard available when he takes off a flight and steers it through the skies. So many data, so much of data is available as dashboards, keyed in by various stakeholders. It is available for HR and others as well as for HR is also concerned. And how do we translate the business strategy objectives into actions? So what are the ways and means to translate them? Then we consider about strategy maps. So how do we evolve those strategy maps from the various links? And how do we develop the strategy aligned to the business strategy? So once we have business strategy, we need to know what are the financial, customers, aspects that we have to bring in, the outcomes. That's from them stems the HR strategy, where we kind of identify what are the trainings programs we have to give to develop and provide, and what are the ways and means to retain employees and things like that. So the options that we have available that are built out, and how do you bring out the training scorecard as well as part of the for meeting the requirements for the HR aspects, and how do we impact the assess the impact of the training strategy. So I have been repeatedly saying that what cannot be improved, what cannot be measured cannot be improved. So training and the scores that we get is so very important. I mentioned it even last session as well. This is an area which most of us as trainers or training managers miss out. Maybe assuming that this may not be right, as long as we get a good reactionary feedback, people happy the program and all that, things would have been good. But it's so very important we back that reactive feedback with the other three levels, which we are going to discuss when we talk about the Kirkpatrick model. and how those metrics and analytics are used in implementing and getting the training strategy, implementing training strategy. So any organization will have those missions and the values. I mentioned that. So what are those key OKRs are called, key results, objectives and key results, or key performance indicators. They could be any among financial, customer, then internal processes, business processes, as you can call, then organizational capacity. Organizational capacity is like also akin to learning, innovation, and things like that. So what is a business scorecard? A business scorecard is that system that compares the activities and the results, right? So why the word balance scorecard is coming is trying to get an overall holistic perspective of not only in terms of the outcomes, but also what are the inputs and processes that are also involved. So a business scorecard compares those activities and results with the planned objectives and strategies. And there are four aspects of business, as I mentioned earlier. One is the learning and growth, which is akin to organizational capacity. Then business processes, or the internal process alternately it could be called, customers, and the financial aspects. These are those four main aspects of the business which we have to measure. The balance scorecard or business scorecard, in fact, they are these days very synonymously used. They provide feedback on both internal and external outcomes to help improve performance and decision making. So in all those organizations which are intending to to improve or reach greater heights, they have ensured that the business codes are made extensively and used, and the important seat is also backed by the HR in this aspect, because the role of HR has become very, very important. So how do we measure the balance scorecard? Why do we organizations implement balance scorecard? It is a performance metric, right? It has both the financial and non-financial. That's why it is called balance. It's just non-financial, but also tries to see what are non-financial, intangible, sometimes areas for improvement that can also be helping the organizations to think about. So the business activities are aligned to the vision and strategy. As you all know, vision, the mission, then you identify the goals, then the strategy. For the strategy, what are the activities that you need to evolve, business activities that should be aligned. So what are those? In fact, one of the most important, as I could learn back in when the organization worked, is communication, right? As transparent as possible. Whatever strategy we are evolving, whatever activities we are evolving, has to be communicated to the lowest possible. So it is not to be property of only the management or the executive. It's also ensured. In fact, the audit. Hello, Sudhakar, can you mute? So auditors and assessors who assess the organizations spend a lot of time in meeting a cross section of people. So we have ensured, as I said, I was as part of the HR teams, both the Voltas and the sales, when we had to facilitate, do some, of course, they were not very particular to meeting anyone, but we are prepared to give some samples for their assessment or audit. So they were trained, or they were coached, and what are the things that are happening and what ought to be shared and things like that. So formal and informal communications of whatever is happening in the organization is made of these days thanks to intranet. But 20 years back, we used to have a lot of posters that used to communicate what's all happening around in the organization, and how this organization performance is monitored. Against the goals. There's a tracking that is required. So even that is also even a part of the assessment. How would you track? What are the means and ways of communicating if there is a shortfall. All this is also part of the activities under the balance scorecard, and help understand the business to feedback. So what is the feedback mechanisms used? So the assessors and auditors, whoever are very trained, more trained in the soft aspects or the people aspects to look for, right? So it is the awards, whatever awards that we get, or sustainable organization is the one, not which is not necessarily making huge profits, uh, is not necessarily making a good revenue, but also in terms of what impact they are making to the employees and the customers as well. So customer feedback surveys are also part of it. Ensuring focus on future success and not just short-term financial gains. So that's what I was saying. So how sustainable the organizations are is one which we need to see. So what is the first what you call tool that is being used is the dashboard. So what is the dashboard? As I mentioned earlier, what you see in your own cars, whatever the engine speed, the fuel indication, the engine and the fuel meters and temperatures. That's what it is. So the dashboards have as similar uses 1 and 4. It's a tool which tracks, analyzes, and uh, displays the KPIs and key data points. So the health of the business can be measured. So it's similar if you are in a SCADA system in a power plant, it can easily possible wherever there are gaps, temperature increase or even shortfall in gas or whatever. Immediately we will know where because they are on a real-time basis. Whatever is being done is tracked on a daily, weekly or monthly basis. That's how they are being used. So it summarizes the entire data that is still filled up in various locations and then is presented so that whoever wants to take a decision can have and has a uh, stake in the business performance, can help to take decisions. It's very offers a very broad way to track the performance. In fact, many organizations are still evolving, despite the fact we have now in the current AI extensively being used, and this is still being evolved. But how to measure this? But it's mostly in the hands of the top management. So this is typically what a dashboard looks like. For example, customer dashboard, number of sales, how many million pounds used, and then how is the week sales and things like that. So how many orders have come today. So this is typically a dashboard for sales. Similar dashboards could be there for other indicators as well, like hiring, how many people have on board today, what are things like that. So what has been the number of dispatches made, right? Or all similar dashboards can be made for different requirements. So the scorecard, the next thing which which are going to extensively discuss today, is very quick measure to measure the KPIs and how effectively the organizations are working in order to achieve their targets. It gives a snapshot vision for the management on how the resources are performing, on the finance aspect, the human aspect. So the comparisons can be made, right? And then returns can be also be measured, and what the costs that are against the costs that are being or investment that have been made. So it gives a static view. It's not unlike the dashboard, which can be a bit dynamic at any point. So a measure of how the organization is performing, then a dynamic measurement, which I mentioned in the dashboard to monitor the success of the organization. So since it is not real time, it is not update. So depending on the choice of the management, how often they should measure, maybe monthly or a weekly, it's been measured, it's used. So it also serves to see how the KPIs and the strategy goals are being are related. How can you monitor them so that it make an impact on the larger scale. So there are several uses and various types of scorecards that are used. One is the progress of a strategy. Then specific departments can also be measured. So when they stay in a meeting, the HODs are around there. Then because The balanced scorecard is it's very very because everything is aligned. So what is performed in one department has an impact on the other department down the line, and what is performed upstream has impact downstream. So the stakeholders are around. So it's an opportunity for each department head or the key stakeholders to defend or explain the reason. Yes, Sudhakar, you have a question?
I just wanted to understand, as you said, all departments have their own scorecard.
Yeah.
Is this also called as a metrics that we have in each department? As you said, mentioned that dispatch should happen on time, the picking should happen, on time. So there is a metrics in each department where the business or the team should perform. Okay, is that
Exactly.
the same?
Exactly. See, as I said, the business performance, the financial performance, or the customer requirements, everything can be cascaded to the every other department. Like, for example, we need to have a good quality hire for the sake of better results, because we need to be experienced from the good campuses, because they are trained in dealing with customers through their product management and things like that in the campuses. Then we'll have to see if customer perspective, because customers want competent product managers who are who have to be recruited from the campus. So the HR's role comes in being there, where how many campus hires we have made, right? So that will be a measure for meeting that customer perspective, right? Like for example, financial. Say the financial says reduce costs, right, of manpower. Now here again, and the challenges come. So if you want to take some good people from the campuses, we have to pay well. But the financial perspective is saying there's a lot of manpower numbers, the cost should be high. So there could be conflicts in these two, right? So here is where the HR will say that we are optimizing on manpower in these areas, but we have to pay well for for attracting customers to the campuses. So this is where I'll be discussing about it also a bit later. We need to see an optimum way. Every stakeholder has to say, because in an organization, uh, if you want to say, for example, you also know, if you have to give focus on quality, we have to make investments in automation, right? That means high costs. So there will be a challenge, there will be conflict between the operations and the finance people. So here is where an optimum level of decisions will be taken, so that to satisfy each other, right? So this helps, because we know that sometimes it's so dynamic that we know if you do this, what is going to be the impact in finance. So decisions will be made based on these trade-offs between finance and operations or whatever. There will definitely be interest, conflicting interests, and there will also be interested parties in this. So these dashboards or this information is going to be definitely helpful in taking a informed decision. Otherwise, mostly it will be on very subjective, and then it will lead to other measures failing. So this is how it can help each other, every department, in an optimum way, and so that conflicts are as minimum as possible. Hope understood, Sudhakar? Right.
Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to relate what is the difference between a scorecard and the matrices that we have.
Yeah.
So it is quite similar, I believe. So
Exactly.
it's clear.
Metrics are required. Obviously, without metrics, they can't be scored, right? Right. So the scores are evolved through when cricket scorecard. Whatever you see is because of the individual scores of the bowlers or the batsmen and all that. They're all metrics. What is the ratio? What is the run rate? All metrics. So now it has, as I said earlier, measures the efficiency of specific teams, identify problems, if any, and how they can be resolved. The main types of business scorecards are strategic, as you may know. It helps in meeting the strategic objectives. The operational in how specific organizations can monitor the performance. And third, of course, the financial. So what is the impact that's making on the financial performance of the organization? So the balance scorecard actually was an article which was published in 92 in Harvard Business Review by Mr. Robert Kaplan, David Norton. By 96, it became so popular that they brought out a book as well.
Ravi, I just
Yes.
wanted to understand the difference between balance scorecard. Business scorecard I have understood, but I just want to understand in
Okay.
deep this balance scorecard.
Okay. Well, I think I said earlier, balance scorecard is also a business scorecard, right? It started off with a business scorecard. Since balance, in financial management, balancing is a very familiar term, right? What do we balance? Liability, assets, and liabilities, and things like that. So these people brought out this balance scorecard only as a measure as a means to measure the business. So they brought out this concept saying it's not necessary that we have to only focus on the finance aspects to really measure the success of a business. There are several non-financial aspects, which are the customer, what you call the HR part of it, the innovations we make. These are also non-financial per se. Unless we make investments and actions on these areas, we will not be able to make an impact in business. So there has to be balance in these. So a balanced scorecard is as good as the business scorecard. It is synonymously used. How do you measure the business? Through a balanced scorecard. Okay, you can
So is
interchange.
this also called as a work-life balance comes under balance scorecard?
No. You're mixing up too many things. So work-life balance is how you balance work and life, right? So what is work? All that you do for as part of your work, right? You clock in at 9 o'clock, work through the day, then 5 o'clock. And even after 5 o'clock, you come home and sit at your laptop and start working. What is it is impacting? Your life is getting impacted, right? That is so different, right? So in fact, I would like to share on a very an anecdotal terms in lighter humor, in lighter tones only. So I was working in an organization. It's very hard work. I mean, working hard, spending time till 9 or 10 o'clock. And there was a time when I wanted to really work for life, right? It was going at 8 o'clock and coming back at around 10 o'clock was really eating into my life, the balance. And I really was looking out for a job. I did get a call from an organization which is an NGO, right? I may be sorry, I may digressing it, but since I'm only for breaking this monotony, it was good you spout out this topic. But let me again tell you, Sudhakar, work-life balance has nothing to do with balance. Okay. And there was first question I was asked because I got late there, and then I was with an NGO organization, and he asked those were the days I'm talking about 2004, 5 that work violence came in a big way, and people started focusing on life as well, family and other things, other areas. So the chairman of the board asked me a question: how is work-life balance in that organization? In fact, I also did not know the term work-life balance. I only mustered courage to tell it's all work, sir, but and what is left is what is balance is life, right? So that is what it is. So when you are focusing or your entire life is work, there is nothing available for you to balance it with life, right? That's what it is. Okay. So let's understand more about what this balance scorecard is. It gives the perspectives. What are the perspectives? The four perspectives. What are those? The financial, customer, the innovation or customer and cognition capability, learning and development, and of course the business processes. So they add value, right? And it will serve the multiple stakeholders. Hitherto, it was only finance and then maybe customer sales and all that. Now, every operational unit, every employee, individual employee also has a role in this entire size. Economical, financial, So what are the earnings that you get from the return investment for satisfying stakeholders, the customer? How do you meet the customer service goals in terms of price, quality, and then other aspects, and experience as well? So a lot of customer surveys are to be used. What are the internal processes you're having? How are you meeting employee expectations to improve ways of means? What are the kaizens you are using, right? What are the internal quality circles or any continuous improvement techniques that are using, or any business process that you follow? Learning and growth, how are you building the capacity across, whether it is the culture, whether it is multi-skilling, with the leadership, etc. So all these that we are doing that has an impact on this will ultimately will have an impact on each other. As you can see in the pictures that I'm going to show you, they have a direct impact on each other. Now, this is what a balanced scorecard could be. You can branch many other things as well. For example, in a balanced scorecard, under the 4 areas of finance, customer, learning and growth, internal business processes. Under finance, you could be measuring asset utilization. And when you actually focus on asset utilization, you will see there are so many assets which are non-performing. There would have been assets which are fixed assets used for a particular point of time are no longer used, right? They also have depreciation. They also have a value in the total cost of the business, right? So once there, I'm only putting only 3 measures of finance. There could be another 20 measures of finance across the organization. It's a focus for cost reduction, right? They have come out as a strategy. So what are the ways and means of how can reduce cost? Could some continuous improvement techniques like value engineering or policy circles, or it should be just reduce cost. It will go on an austerity drive. So we are not going to stay in 5-star hotels, whatever. So all those strategies, I mean, the activities will evolve from the strategies that you're bringing out from each of this. Revenue growth, how can I include, how can I make my market presence felt? Today I'm at 15% in the south. So how do I focus, make it 20%? So what are the activities I need to bring about? So from each of these goals, of course, what I mentioned is only a phrase or a statement. It has to be converted into a goal, right? How do I achieve this particular goal? Based on these activities that is built out. From the activities, STEM, what are the specific areas of learning and growth we'll have to make? What are the customer related activities you need to do? What are the business process activities you need? So they're all connected. It's almost like a mind map, right? So you have to make some impact on one area. You need to bring out some actions in the other areas as well. They can't stand alone. Take the case of customer as well. So how do you measure the customer satisfaction? Do you have customer satisfaction surveys, right? Many organizations do it. In fact, even a simple thing as giving your car for service, you will be as soon as the service is done, you will fill up a feedback form there, right? Then one of the ladies call you after a week whether the vehicle is performing well. All those go into the measuring customer satisfaction survey, and these go into their total measure. If you're having a vehicle, maybe Maruti, Hyundai, whatever, and these are all keyed in, they go into their dashboards. And then in their top management review, these also come into discussion. That's how, because it is a survival of the fittest. So when they give the feedback to the customers, these are all the measures available if you go to their websites as well. Market share, as I mentioned. How do you retain customers? How many customers have been retained over the past period? How many customers are left to competition? All these also are the specific goals we need to want. And internal business processes. How is the yield, process efficiencies in various processes? How is quality improved? How many defects were there, right? How it is cycle time? It could be supply chain management areas as well, right? What are lead time? What are lead time now? Learning growth, as I said, how the skills are developed. Even culture can be measured, right? So how corporate culture is sustained over a period of time. So how people are internalizing the values in the areas. As I mentioned last time, how do they demonstrate what values, behaviors they did at one point of time. Even technology infrastructure for IT, where IT, as I said the last time, has come in a very big way in terms of the learning part is concerned. There's more today. There's less of classroom training, more of e-learning courses happening, the hybrid courses happening. So technology has come in a big way in the learning and growth of organizations. So this is something which also is where business investing in big way. So how do this? What I mentioned is actually how this is all connected, right? So financial shareholders, that's their way, and that's way they measure the company, right? So how they could also be customers. So how do the customers see us? Are we satisfying customer needs? So they are the goal. I mentioned about goals. These goals could be 20%, 10%, 5%. How do you measure them? How do you track them? Right? Then innovation and learning, alternatively called learning and growth. So how can we serve customers? By training our employees, right? So what are the opportunities? It is a way we look out across, always trying to get the information from the market, benchmarking the competition. What are the competitions doing? What are the opportunities we have? What are the challenges we have, etc., and all that. So what are the measures we can make? Then the business processes. How can we continuously make improvements, right? How do we add value? Are we effectively working, or we are working efficient? If we are always doing well, how can we further excellent? So this is a continuous, in fact, many continuous, way of doing things. Many organizations have a centers of excellence, right? Who are focused only on this. There are people who are like, for example, earlier used to have the TQM organization, or the ISO, or this is managing the ISO. Now added on this as well. They are fundamentally those who facilitate these processes for ensuring relationship, the balance scorecard is achieved. So internal efficiencies and customer satisfaction will lead to financial success. Hitherto, it was only financial success. So how can we bring out improvements in the other three areas as well to make a big impact in the financial areas? So far we have discussed about business, and what I just mentioned is also an important area for HR also to occur. So it's a need of the hour now. And then, in fact, taking up the challenge of going through this course, for those of you who are not at started it in your organization, gives you a good opportunity for you to develop metrics and then try to see how you can make an impact in the businesses as well. So as I mentioned earlier, when we started, there's a perception that, though it is not, it is now a myth now, and doesn't add value to the company strategy. It's a cost hit. It had limited operations. It's a mere staff function. It can also be outsourced. In fact, there was a time over a couple of decades back, or even started off, there are some functions can be outsourced. Is happening now, right? So payroll is being outsourced, and even recruitment is also outsourced. With an assumption which may be right in sometimes, because it's a cost center. So this is a perception that is there. Of course, HR functions can utilize those outsourced teams of HR to make improvements in HR as well. It's not that outsourced HR doesn't exist, HR function doesn't exist. We ultimately in the organization are the decision makers. We can direct those outsourced agencies to ensure that there's impact in these areas which we are concerned. So there was a book that was published in 2001 by Becker, Hughes-Lid, and the HR guru David Rich, which extensively builds about the measures that can help in managing and providing a strategic role to HR department. In fact, you can even do a Google search later, and of course, I would urge you to read the book. If you can have, they could possibly a PDF of that, maybe a synopsis of it available. So it gives the various measures. So I would also urge you the CLC, Corporate Leadership Council, CLC, or the CSB, Corporate Strategy Board. They have their publications. Many organizations have subscribed them. they give a lot of metrics in the HR area that can be useful to as well. So the HR scorecard gives a leading HR indicators, the deliverables, and KPIs that measure and predict future growth. So it's up to you to talk to your management and then see what are those KPIs. Some of you as an HR will facilitate it as well. Borrow those business areas, KPIs, and then see what way L&D or HR can also be used. HR metrics can be used to measure the impact. So what are the steps to create a scorecard? First, in the HR strategy map. So how do we develop the strategy map? By taking out those various initiatives or the goals of the business, so where HR can stem in. What are the deliverables that we in HR should make in specific actions that have an impact? It just cannot happen with the deliverables. What are the policies? What are the processes we need to have, right? So in the organization that currently I am serving on a honorary basis, training was never happening, right? It's all, since the organization was an NGO, whatever people served and all that. But even in NGO organization, it's important, though they're volunteers, but they're more focused on spiritual aspects than but even in a spiritual organization, there are processes which have to be made, right? So we need to evolve some policies, right? It's not just you come for only a spiritual, but you also have to do work or karma, as you can call it, a duty also to perform. So what are the policies governed to that, right? That can have a balance of your meditations and all the things that you learn, but also the processes in terms of the actions you need to do, because that's also an organization in its own way, right? Then practices that have to be evolved, aligning those systems with those processes, and efficiency is also involved. So hitherto, there was an attendance issue, right? We have now got biometrics, measure attendance. This is making an impact. We have a lot of social projects in the organization. They're getting impacted because of non-availability of people at point of time. Now with this metric and with this scorecards and all that, we have very I would say initial stages. We have brought out policies, developed processes, and then we are able to connect that by better impact on social projects as well. So if, for example, take into organization that you are serving, most of that on the professional organizations in corporates. So if the strategy is the organization decides we have to make the most innovative organization in the sector, right? How do we do that? The HR part will be, in fact, when you say most innovative, it just cannot happen. Yeah, we can have technology, but who makes the innovations? It's the people, right? So for that, we need to hire more qualified professionals, right? From the best of schools, the best of colleges, or maybe laterals, the best of corporates, right? Who have had a good experience, have been trained well in other areas. But as I said earlier, should also be, it can have an impact on financial, right? So high qualified cost people would be affecting in terms of increased costs. So we may also have see how do I measure, how do I decrease recruitment at the same time? So a balance has to be maintained. So how do I measure? So let me see if I can make some changes in the processes. Hitherto, there used to be like lead time, high lead time. How do I ensure that the lead time is brought down so that the person is available just in time? Second, because the time that is taken for a person to be on board, it means an opportunity loss in terms of innovations, right? So how can I quickly get him on board or her on board? Then how can I make my organization more attractive employer? What is the employee value proposition I make? It's a role of HR there, right? So how do I make some customer surveys, satisfaction surveys? How do we make employee engagement surveys? How do I ensure that employee engagement is good? So these are the ones that attract a highly qualified employee. The organizations like say Google, the GE, they are all done this in extensive way, right? So that employees get attracted through the measures that HR has made, and in these areas of attractive employee, being employee, or even ensuring that they are paid well enough, but at the same time, good get opportunities of meaningful work. That's also the part of the employee value proposition, right? So if these are those strategies, then what are the scorecards, right? So if you have made a measure in the KPI, you will see against most innovative organization sector, there are two KPIs made for us in HR. One was position in the sector-wide innovation benchmark. So today Google helps, or any other search engine helps you to identify what are the positions of various organizations innovation, right? So GE could be one, or a Microsoft could be other, and even in India it could be some of the other organizations. So if we see our organization is ranking 5, so it means that we need to do something to make it at least the top 3, right? So from these evolve those strategies in HR, right, to make it under the top 3. Second is the time to market of last 5 products. So here is where the product management comes into play, right? So if we have to market, then there's a lot of training to be required for our product managers and those staff. The current score is 121 days. Now, how do we bring it out in less than 100 days? For which specific trainings are to be provided. The second one was a more qualified professionals. So the satisfaction score of, it is called the satisfaction manager. What is it? It's 12 Q12 managers as well, right? After 1 year's 0.7, we have to make it 0.5. It means more employees under a manager are happy with the customer, with the manager. So as I mentioned in the employee engagement score, there are a set of 12 questions where each employee is asked to answer against those questions. And a better score means they are having a better manager, right? So this also gives a score. So we have to focus on those managers, right? The decrease in recruitment cost. Now I put in dollars here. Recruitment cost was 4 million. So you have to bring it into 3.5. How do you do it? I mentioned, how can I reduce the lead time? So it could be direct, indirect cost as well. Time to hire is 38 days. It has come to 25 days. Acceptance ratios is 70%. How do I make it 20, 90%? Top employee, it was top 40%. Now I will come top 1. So if you see the Fortune 500 and all that, you'll be probably ranking top 40%. How do I make it top 20? So these are the ways and means that HR has to evolve from the recruitment strategy, which actually stems from your business strategy as well. Okay. Now, what are the policies and processes? Well, we have a strong, yes, Sudhakar.
Sir, can you go on the previous slide?
Yeah. Have you got it?
Not
Yeah.
visible.
Got it now?
So this is just an example, I believe. Every
Yes.
organization will be having different KPIs for their
Yes.
own HR or TA partner.
Yes.
So this is how they should or we should define the KPI for the people
Exactly.
basis on this example, or we can go ahead something.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, you need not
Sure.
reinvent the wheel these days, Sudhakar. So today, thanks to our search engines, no, you can see benchmarks of various organizations on whatever the area you want to make, right? So there are a lot of support you get from the net as well these days.
Which website you're talking about?
Any Google, so you just see what are KPIs for HR. You will get a list of those KPIs from connecting to each strategies under HR.
Fine, thank you.
So one is the strong employer brand, right? Policies we have to build. In fact, let me share, even in NGOs I'm currently serving now, if an organization, a corporate, wants to, you are aware probably, corporates that I think today, I don't know, current, about 4% of your profits has to be utilized for CSR initiatives. Most of you may be aware of that, right? So more and more organizations are reaching out to NGOs to invest for their sustainable corporate sustainability initiatives. And they're also reaching out to organizations, including us, and they're asking for policies. What are the policies you have? Then, in fact, recently, I don't want to name the organization, they asked for as many as 10 policies whether we have in the organization. It's not for them, it is for us. If we have this, then only they're going to utilize our services for the social project. It could be skill project, it could be river project, it could be any project. So even we in an NGO are mandated to have these policies. So if we are mandating, NGOs are mandated, what about yours? So you must have all the more policies and processes that will build something. I'm just giving an example of employer branding policy, employee value proposition. How do you bring about? What are the various processes you are doing in the recruitment and workflows that you're having? How optimizing even this lead time of recruitment. So if it's today, it's about 90 days. How can you make it 60 days, right? But you make it 60 days, then you have to buy out those persons, their notice periods. So what that costs. So we in HR have to really have a conflict with the finance and other people. How do we ensure that we get the right person in, and then at the same time make an impact in innovations or whatever, right? So this is something which we also do know we thoroughly conversant with. So things that can help in immediate actions on the place. If you get a fresh employee, fresh from the campus without much of experience, a lot of time is taken for their training. So if you get an already lateral employee, then time is reduced, but at the same time, salaries could be more. So a trade-off has to be made. I will in fact here share the example where I don't want to name the organization here. We were recruiting people from the IITs, right? The reason was this, right? And we were surprised to get a feedback from those IITs that they were just doing some coding, right? Which engineering college guy could also do, or even a diploma guy could also do. We were paying around 3.5 lakhs at that point of time to the IT guy, and around 3 lakhs to a diploma guy. Diploma means postgraduate diploma after on that particular IT aspect. And we were paying around 2.5 to the graduate engineer training, right? This was the difference. When we came to know, we just stopped recruitment from IITs. And then at 2.5 lakhs, we got in these GETs and then just gave them some training. You remember I mentioned you about the training, plus some training on particularly one department, not across the department. One particular department which was depending on a lot of codings for their organizations. Yes, the IITs definitely are smart, but that's why we recruited. But when we realized that was basic level coding, we changed our recruitment strategy to not take from not to be against it, but the skills that are required were not that much warranting us to go to the bigger campuses, right? So we need to then we do some testimonials, right? How are you doing it? Have you taken some people, customers from the campuses? Have you have experiences? Are you projecting those testimonials so that you attract best candidates? And what are the practices that you have, right? But these days, with so much of social media, companies are quite busy agog with so many activities throughout the day, sharing and then those practices across departments, across organizations, as long as they are, to be shared, they are moderated by the people concerned. This is doing a lot of service for attracting good. At the same time, it's also doing damage too. So if the employee is not happy, he or she can also put in something on the internet. So obviously, to balance, we need to see more good things to be shared in the organization as well, right? So these are called the bundles of practices, policies, processes, and practices. These are the one that energize. And if you ask me what can I do in HR or training, this is where you can pitch in, right? So please, yes, you have a very important role to play as training managers, or even some of you may be delivering training. But we need to also focus on this area. That's where you get all the recognition possible from other, other stakeholders and within the top management. So how do we align these HR systems, right? And I think gave you an example. Those practices that create synergy and not conflict. Example that I mentioned about was matching, right? campus placement leading to increased per head recruitment costs. I just mentioned about it. Employee branding efforts to focus on types of workers employing is looking for. Like if you're focusing, we're taking people from the campuses, you're branding for the campuses. But if the skill required is only for the lower level skill, then there's a mismatch there, right? Now you say that I want to decrease lead time by trying to get people on board immediately, but a person who is available could possibly be a person with low quality. See, there's a conflict here. A person who is very important, very skilled, is in the competition, but for him to get out of that organization, he has to serve his notice period, right? It's 3 months. Now, if we say, I want to reduce lead time by trying to take one person who's available, who's likely that is been probably moved out of that organization, then we may be getting a person with a lower quality. So here is where we need to trade off, right? So we have to create as many efficiencies as possible. So there are some efficiencies that we also unnecessarily measuring, which may not be relevant, right? This is once a measure of the quality of hire. You think we may have to focus on quality of hire, the cost of hire thing may be brought down. We not focus on that. So some of those metrics could be contradictory, right? So if we're trying to focus on one metric, the other metric can be affected. So we'll have to take a call, right? What are we focusing on? So more important is the long-term results, for which we need to have substantial evidence or proving our point that we are recruiting a high quality hire, even if it's higher cost. Our experience has shown that they have brought results in the short period of 3 months or 4 months or whatever. So these backup evidences will supplement and complement our activities in HR and training. So those could be improving, focusing on existing processes. So it's quite possible we would have a talent which is from an ordinary campus or ordinary organization, because we are focusing on reducing the lead time at what point of time. Here is where we need to build in with whatever time available in having those processes to improve those skills. So I have seen organizations where after one point of time, I don't want to name the organization, I've seen them, I've also heard from people who are working in such organizations, though they have been brought at a high salary compensation because they belong to a big campuses, they have their brand still, but eventually after a few months down the line or a year down the line, they are doing the same work that the others are doing from the lesser known campuses, right? So this is something which we can show to our management to say where we can probably reduce the cost of hire and things like that. So we have to see how many processes. So earlier the recruitment process was stating go for the big high ranking campuses. Now we have to improve on that by saying that we can go for these campuses as well. That could probably reduce our costs. Increasing investment assessments also. This is something which I mentioned about in the last 2 sessions that I was discussing about, is how we can bring in talent management processes, right? So today it's a highly competitive world. Attritions are very high in most areas, be it banking, be it technology, be it even pharmaceuticals, and so many areas. So it's very important we have to have assessments, to have people on the fast tracks, people who are potential of leaving, and trying to get them to train people who are identified successes. All these processes in talent management will help us in a very, very big way, right? So today in the people processes, auditors and assessors are looking for those, success, uh, factors which will hold our talent in the organization, sustain them in a big way. So this is some processes which we in HR and L&D have a very big role to play. And what are the employer branding projects we have made? So these are something which we have to have processes for doing. Having a presence, not only felt but experienced and then demanded from our management. So these are the initiatives that boost our HR deliverables in a very, very big way. So more important of performance of HR is the alignment of the vision and strategy. So gone are the days of where we are measured on our specific tools, right? Of hiring or firing or training per se, but where our scores or our metrics are giving a very direct impact to the business areas is what organizations are looking for. So this is we need to focus on. So there is a critique made by Dave Ulrich, the HR guru, very active HR guru. In fact, I noticed that people, you connect to him over LinkedIn, and then you say you have a question to him, he will answer it. Or probably as a team who answer for him, I do not know, but that's how he has made himself very proclaimed as one of the good HR gurus. He was one of the authors of the HR scorecard. So what he mentioned, because the reason I mentioned it, though it was probably not part of the syllabus per se, is to only drive home the point that we should not just focus on the people analytics part. I just stressed it in the earlier slide. So it is the biggest. It's not. It is the single biggest predictor of it. We call that external sensing, right? It's a process for organizational capability building itself, right? So what is external sensing is the idea that you make the market opportunities for customers and investors. The key is therefore to link metrics analytics to the business, right? Not dealing with per se in the HR area itself. What he said is HR score, very interesting. HR scorecard should not be about HR, right? You should talk about market opportunity. You should talk about how we are building a competitive advantage, right? How are we driving businesses? That should come out not only in words, but also in terms of experiences, right? So that's what we need to build. I mentioned earlier, do you remember? Non-intrusive visits for people in the staff functions, right? They have no direct role to play in a project or a technology per se. They don't operate equipment. They don't commission, execute projects, but their presence and logging that experience of being part of a meeting where business decisions are taken is also a strategy for HR, which is external, which is actually trying to see how we're relating to the business, right? What is the most important or best thing HR can give an employee, right? These are things that we need to. Are we giving a sense of purpose? So this is how we can do it. Are we treating an employee, whether it's a training function, in HR or in recruitment, just as a person whose job is to get people in or train people there, or he or she is trying to experience that what I am doing, I'm also responsible for ensuring that there is an impact on the business by making him or her part of the entire process, right? So this is what I'm sure most of you are looking for in whatever profession you are in, right? So what is the sense of purpose that I am experiencing, right? Am I going beyond my duty and responsibility of doing this, but am I also connecting the dots to the business as well? These actually give a very big impetus to create a sense of ownership in the organization, right? They'll connect better to the organization by these processes. We will learn. In fact, let me share with you, though the amount of time is spent in 3 private sectors organizations is lesser compared to a longer stint I had in earlier. The learning has been immense because of in each organization there were different focuses, different strategies leading to different HR initiatives that have been done. So it gave me immense learning. I don't advocate you to leave organizations. If your organization is doing pretty well, please do stay in wherever you are. But these help, you can stay in an organization and then see what other competitors are doing and then bring out those improvements through processes that you can evolve for yourself, right? What are the opportunities to learn? Here we have a responsibility not only for us, to see how we are learning, but also creating for others in the organization. Are we creating opportunities to learn through e-learning courses? In fact, I would even share with you the amount of satisfaction that I and my team back at Reliance got by creating as many as about 100 e-learning courses uh, for our employees. I'm not talking about the ready to off the shelf available in whether through Coursera or on the Harvard. We are talking about technical e-learning courses, right? Wherein we video shot actual activities happening in the projects, and then we develop modules, manuals, and then we used it for our employees, even workers in the areas of safety in various aspects of the projects as well, right? Then the reason is just compensation or even others above. These are things which are the enabling more teamwork. In fact, all these processes, when we develop and the business processes that create an impact, drive the need for people to bond between each functions, right? And then it creates better teamwork as well, right? People tend to know people in other businesses as well because of these opportunities. So my answer is for all, of course, in addition to the top others, is to give an employee in the company that wins in the marketplace. So what all we do in these processes, ultimately we'll reach a point that not only the company wins, but we also win. It's a win-win proposition that we have by having this triple analytics. So there are various analytics that are used. It could be descriptive analytics, diagnostic analytics, predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics. Each has a meaning and reason why we have. Whereas prescriptive analysis is how can we make it happen, like the typical prescriptions that a doctor gives on after diagnosis, right? So these are the things. These are the things that you need to do for getting it done. So what will happen is possible. Possible. What can happen if you do this? Do not do. I'll go in the other way now for better understanding. So descriptive analysis is what are those symptoms? I'm just giving analogy of a patient and a doctor. So what happened? What are the things that you are happening, or what is your body or the mind or whatever we call it? What is the what are you currently suffering with? What are your problems? This is a descriptive analytics. Then next comes why did it happen? So here is where you try to go to the root cause. So the doctor may mentally makes an algorithm and say, is it because of this? Is it because of that? He asks him this series of questions to arrive at a possible root cause or one or two causes. Then he will say that these are the things that may happen if you don't do this, right? These are things that will happen if you don't do this or you do this. So these are the predicatives that he or she will give. Then you will give a list of medicines or exercises or whatever. No, these are the prescriptions that you make. So similar things can also be brought up. There are statistical methods, technologies that are there available. So I'll be talking about data mining as well. Big data is coming to use in a very big way to and help in analyzing data and for our business decision making. So the other key business which I mentioned is the big data. Today, large databases are available, of course, at a fee that can help you to use this data for analysis. There could be as many as 4, if not more than 5 V's, as it's called, volume, the quantity generated and stored. So people with various people and vendors have this data. So who are the other vendors who are having this equipment? So how can they, because this can help in big way in doing benchmarking, right? So big data analysis can help that. So if you happen to be in a particular business, then you can reach out to those databases relating to the businesses, whether you focus on the variety that are offering, volume that are offering, the speed. So each, if you see, is a factor, right? So whether it is size, whether it is type, whether it is the time for that, the quality and reliability of it, right? And the value of it, and even the visualization, the way it is available, how attractive the data is being, brought about in communicating it. That's also very important, right? So these big data is available as a data sets, which can be made use of to for us in HR to uh, relate to our business. So there are so many ways. In fact, I may be overdoing it, but these are some of these ways that help people to analyze and even correct the current ways and means of doing business as well, right? How do we plan our workforce, right? So let us study the current workforce planning. How are we doing it? I'll tell you 9 out of 10 times that we are not doing the right way. There is a better way of doing whatever we're doing now, right? How do we improve that? How do we strategize that, right? Cost is a very important factor in HR. There are cases where I have experience as an employee, as an HR. We started recruiting in a very big way, adding on to the costs. And this realization came up when the transition happened to when it was taken over. And there was a time when there was recruitment freeze happening, and then a lot of stress involved, people being fired, downsizing and right sizing. So we need to see how we can balance that, right? We will of course reduce costs, but at the same time, not how do we optimize it? That's what we need to focus on. How do we, as I said, to talent management exercises, how do we give talent insights to succession planning, to training, to make people ready, maybe 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, things like that. So let us understand one important thing here. Experience definitely brings in a lot of maturity, right? But it is not necessary with respect to some specific skills, right? So there could be some people who are at a younger age with a lesser experience who can provide the same skill that an experienced aged employee gives, right? So maybe we can have him or her at a lesser cost, right? That is how we need to ensure optimize it. Optimize it. As I said earlier, there is what is called there means where we can train those experienced employees for other purposes as well, where not much skills are required. Maybe in administration, maybe in travel, maybe in some other, other lesser requirement. They can form part of, doing some consulting because definitely experience based in consulting as well. So we can have him or her as a part time, right? So that he can definitely be a consultant for other organizations as well, because as far as your conflict of interest are taken care of. So these are some ways which we can see unlocking powerful insights which are not available otherwise, right? Improving predicting hiring needs. So we know how technology is evolving. How do I predict, what should be the hiring need 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line, etc. How do we improve retention? How we make a decision without being subjective, without being a bias? How can we incorporate technology in our processes? And then how do we tap those experiences that people have in this? So much of, as I said earlier, is available for big data for us in HR. Shall we take a break for about 10 minutes?
Sir, it is required
No,
indeed.
not required. No, if it's not required, I'm going at it. We can next 1 hour we
Sir,
complete it and go ahead, right? So,
sir, I was about to ask actually. So please give us 10-minute break. It is required. So
okay.
yeah,
I'm giving you 10 minutes. Okay, right. Okay then.
yeah. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm starting. Resuming here. It's okay. Okay, we're back again. So the second part is the business intelligence. It can be useful for through technology. As we just mentioned about those prescriptive, diagnostic, and other ways of analyzing the business through big data. So business intelligence is a process through technology. We can provide information so that the management and the employees or managers can make better decisions. So what are those tools and software required? What are those spreadsheets? So even Microsoft Excel and Google Docs are some of the very widely used BI tools, and many of the applications of Microsoft Excel and tool are very minimally used these days. So a lot of it is available, which can help us to take use extensively to take better decisions. There are some reporting softwares also available based on the data that we have. So thanks to, of course, these days AI and every organization has brought out ways of making taking out information from a data available. So some software which available to make effective presentations that can impact decision makers. A lot of data through data mining tools can be used for by using things like AI, machine learning, and statistics as well. And OLAP tools are there, online analytical process tools, to analyze the data from a varied angles and based on different business perspectives. So these are the ways where the business is linked to HR. Business intelligence is provided linked to HR. One is the data-driven decision making, wherein data is converted to actionable items or insights. For recruitment and onboarding, when from based on performance, retention data, and the needs are connected. How talent development can be used for mapping career paths and developing training plans. How performance management is when measured in real time through performance metrics can be used for feedback. And the retention strategies that we can have, so which can predict a person leaving our organization and then trying to build in some strategies to retain him or her. So let us now discuss about HR analytics now. So what we have discussed are also people analytics one way, but how we are connecting more to the business, the importance of alignment to the business. Here we are specifically discussing about what are those specific to HR which we need to focus on. So number one, it is analytics. What is it? It's a way of gathering and analyzing and reporting the data with respect to HR, human resource management. So how HR can leverage the politics of the power of analytics to become a strategic business partner and make substantial contributions to the business. So what can we do by analyzing data? We can identify what are the trends through forecasting that is in the market. Even can analyze to some bit of it, even what competition is doing on this area. We can identify what are the factors that can improve or reduce cost of employees, the turnover employees. What are those risks that affect the businesses, the HR risks per se? How do we optimize the payroll? How do we hire and keep employees? In fact, onboarding is a very important aspect as well. How can we facilitate better onboarding? It is said the first impressions are the best impressions. So how we onboard employee, how we engage with the employee, the prospective employee until he or she joins is also an area where which can work on. So what is the system of measuring and rewarding performance, including even recognition, right? There could be financial, non-financial means, right? HR analytics can help in a very big way, right? So some of the metrics that can be used in HR analytics is one is revenue per employee. So what does it mean? It's if the employees, the revenue of a company is about say 150 crores, and the number of employees are say 150, then the revenue per employee is one, right? So this is one way of measuring an employee revenue per employee. It gives a figure of how your RPE is performing over the years of whatever. We can even compare our competition also. Time to fill is how many days that are required for a person to be someone to fill the job. Like for example, you have made an offer letter, has been received, and then how many days it has taken for him or her to join the company, right? So this gives our onboarding, time. Then the voluntary or involuntary turnover attrition. So there are different ways. Voluntary could be where people leave on their own accord, or involuntary could be by separation through termination, other things. So we can measure these ratios as well. So offer acceptance is the number of jobs accepted by people. So this is what is called a funnel ratio as well. I need, if that's how we in recruitment team also to work. There's a ratio at every end. If we know by experience that even if you have ads, right, newspaper ads or even through online recruitment sites, we need to see what is the funnel ratio, right? So if we want 10 people on board, then we need to see based on the ratio to get 10 people on board, we need to recruit, we need to interview at least 20 people. To interview 20 people, we need to call 25 of them. Not necessarily all will be call coming. If we need to call 25 people, we need to filter at least around 50 CVs. To filter 50 CVs or resumes, we need to have at least about 100 CVs. To have 100 CVs, we need to see where we need to source from. Whether a particular placement consultant can do 3 or more placement consultants, or the Naukri or the Monster, whatever, right? So we need to funnel whatever based on this experience, right? So depending upon the market, it's not that easy because there's so much in competition, and the prospective employees are having other options for them before they take a decision to join us. So all these metrics can help us in a big way. Retention rate. How do we measure it? So if what total number of employees, if you divide by who decide to stay over a period of time, right? This is what is required. So if you take a scale of say over a period of 1 year, right? So it is a number of people who have stayed over a period of 1 year, it could be 2 years, it could be depending on the ratio we decide. Those are the days when a person stayed on an organization for 5 years, it's really loyalty. These days, I don't consider it. I'm not saying they're not loyal, they're maybe professionally loyal, but better opportunities people are leaving. So you can scale it down from 5 years to even 3 years. This person is staying. It's a good retention rate. Depending upon type of business also you're in. Absence rate. It is how do you divide number of days by the total number of days the employee could have worked over a period of time, right? So a person taking leave is not considered absence, right? Only if he is not coming is the absence ratio, absentee ratio is called, right? So this gives a very comparative description about how HR analytics differ from people analytics. And there is also a term called workforce analytics. They are more or less almost mean the same, but slightly of a subtle difference. Whereas HR analytics deals with the metrics of the HR function in the organization, that are managed exclusively by HR for HR, right? This is what is the HR analytics. People analytics involves where individuals are even outside, right? Customers, even our placement, people, right? They also could be people analytics. What are people analytics, right? So if you have a customer experience, like how service people have, been performing. So that's the people analytics. We are extending other stakeholders over and above our own people to get how our people are measuring in the workplace, in the external workplace, right? As perceived by the external people, right? So this is something which is under people analytics. Workforce analytics is all inclusive, right? It could be employees, it could be freelance, it could be consultants and other and working different capacities, right? So this that is how the subtle difference between HR people and workforce analytics. So some of the best practices in HR analytics have been there, which have been done by several organizations, have helped in a very big way. They really require database decision making, right? They need to use the right mix of tools. Too many cooks spoil the broth, it is said. It's not necessarily you have to have so many, but just a few simple, which can be, can be helpful as to. Then we need to ask data-driven questions, right? So the way we are asking questions is very important. How the data that we get can be translated to action. How do we get a leadership buy-in for this is also very important. Ability for us to convince in HR for using this analytics is important. How we get feedback by survey and other means and mechanisms are important. So how do we translate those objectives into action plans? Number one, by setting high-level strategic goals, right? And getting them approved and communicated all across to all organizations, all across the organization. So breaking down these goals into specific initiatives for the year. For example, if we are at the start of the year almost in May, say, then what are those? It's time that probably organizations have got into this KRAs, KPIs and all that. So if we in HR are helping them to break down long-term strategic goals into specific initiatives, which helps the manager or the executives down to identify specific to him or her what are the actions that he or she should take. And when these initiatives are assigned to the various leaders and various teams, whoever is responsible for each initiative, what are the key initiatives or actions to be taken to achieve those deliverables for which resources may be required. This could be any of those 5 M's: men, materials, money, time, and even equipment, machines. So what are those required? So what does it mean in terms of costs? They also have to be determined. We also need to see how they are related to each other. So how, as I mentioned earlier, how one impact can lead to change in the other functions as well. So these are very, very important because there should not be any surprises. So when we know that there is an initiative or an action that is taken into one area, we need to give alarm or caution or even surprise without giving surprises to tell them this is going to lead to this benefit to you, or this could have some challenges at this area, the initial period, but that it'll be overcome in a short time. So these needs to be ensured everywhere. And based on, well, if the challenges are many, there are constraints that are coming up, which is affecting the other aspect of a business, which is leading to conflict, then it's a time for us to prioritize, right? Okay, this is leading to this result. Well, maybe in the short term, it's not required, or then prioritize that. So when constraints are removed and whatever resources we have, we go on with the actions on the prioritize, right? And of course, again, communication is very important everywhere. any change of actions, right? So this is what is I mentioned by a broader buy-in. So continuous communication by leaders is very, very important. A short term, it is called is briefing. So whenever an activity or action has to be implemented at the workplace, then this is very, very important. Briefing by leaders, and time for tracking, monitoring, measuring, adjusting is there. So it is not that what we had action, what we have asked is, directed is to be done, and we have to have this meetings, could be weekly, monthly, or daily, to assess how the progress is made, how the success is measured, celebrating small successes, and it required making some adjustments. Remember the PDCA cycle? It's all required even here to make this improvements. So what we need to, we may be going back and forth here, but this is important for us first to make the strategy maps. So this is how they evolve against those four aspects, what I mentioned under the balance scorecard: finance, financial, customer, internal, and the learning perspective. So these are how they are linked. Like, for example, there is the company has decided to have a growth strategy and efficiency strategy in terms of cost reduction, in terms of revenue, in terms of market size. Well, obviously, the workforce effectiveness is related. Without workforce effectiveness, we will not be able to achieve this top goals. What does it mean under financial perspectives? Are we creating growth opportunities? Right? Are we enhancing the value proposition of our employees? Are we improving the cost structure? These are some things which comes under financial perspectives. Now, coupled to these financial perspectives, what are the impacts you're going to make in the customer perspectives? Are we building solid partnerships with the customers? Are we able to retain them with better service delivery? Are we providing better quality, right? Are we able to deliver on demand? Are we compensating them in case of, value for money? So these are some things which we need to see in terms of customers' perspectives for achieving those financial perspectives as well. They are related. Then comes the processes, internal processes. If we have to do this, there's so many business processes initiatives we have to do. How are we managing our workforce, right? How do we select our employees? This is where our policies, practices, all that we discussed come into play. What is our training and development policy? What is the retention policy? How do we select employees? What is the recruitment policy and process? How do we segment different customers, right? How do we segment acquisitions? But today, particularly in the e-commerce area, right, where so many organizations that come like the Amazon, you have this what you call Marks and Spencer. So many organizations are now on the e-commerce field, right? Mintra, whatever you call. They have these ratios in a very big way. They are continuously having people who are doing data analytics, and they're providing the leaders and management with this information, right? Everything is being measured these days. Like for service delivery, what are those? How do you identify? How do you develop? How do you ensure this? How is cost management being done? And for this, what are the learning perspectives you're making? How do we ensure the values and behaviors are in place, right? How are we motivating employees to ensure this? How are we ensure them to build partnerships? How are we making them to learn, acquire more and more knowledge? How are we ensuring that they have a balance, right? So all these are dovetailed to each perspective, aligned to each perspective, and thereby to the strategic goals of the organization. So very important here is a strategic max is of course it's actually connected to the balance score model, balance scorecard. These visual representations. So when we have the strategic maps, it helps us, to connect to our strategy objectives, and we also can relate to the interdependencies which are so important. You will able to see the cause and effect as well. So how achieving one objective influence the other objective. So this will make people see the sense of purpose and meaning. And then it will also they increase employee. Otherwise, they may be saying that we are being driven to do something for which we have no understanding. So that gives them the reason to know why they are doing what they are doing. It also helps in engagement, So that once they know the impact in the longer run or in the next to the other departments and other businesses or even the customers or even the marketplace, this helps in their strategic thinking. In their thinking, they will have more fruitful conversations. They will collaborate better and involve themselves and participate across all levels in the organizations. So this also helps the management now to focus on strategies, right? So what are the turns, what are the twists they can make in the strategies per se? So how can we see the gaps that can come up can be addressed? Then how can we have better actionable plans? So this is how strategic maps help in a very big way to the management as well. So how do we develop the HR strategy to come to for learn the business strategy? First and foremost, we need to be in HR, understand the business strategy. I was mentioning last sessions as well. We need to be more conversant with our business, right? May not be as much as the thing, but spend some time with the strategy team, spend some time with our business counterparts, talk to them, what are they doing, things like that. So let's address our the business strategy through setting very clear HR goals, right? Just having a HR department, just a training department, and bring out some activities will not. It's for our own personal and professional growth. We in HR have to do this more specifically and more intently. Develop a strategic HR plan. Of course, perform after the gap analysis, perform a strategic HR, develop a HR strategic plan and implement it. And we need to see how we can evaluate it and then adjust it. Again, based on that PDCA. So there are several organizations which are doing very important in analyzing leading HR function. For example, new talent acquisition. How did I gave you an example? How do we mention new talent? Then performance management. You can, as I said, as one of the homework later today, using some search engines measure this. What different organizations are doing differently in various areas. If that is an area of concern to you in your department. In the area of training and development, detention management, how employment law is complied with. This is also under the sustainability and other areas. Europe and the West, the most stringent employment laws. So how they are complied is a very big actionable item for even HR as well. How compensation benefits are addressed, which are very sensitive, but at the same time very important for attracting retain talent. How safety and security is being ensured as well. So there are several organizations which are doing a very big way in ensuring this. So now we're coming to a very important, which could be more interesting to people like you, which is the training scorecard. So what is a training scorecard? It's a performance tool that is used to display whatever training initiatives you are making, are they impacting business goals, right? So it's a tool which also highlights the metrics, the KPIs, the objectives and the goals that are being scored. And it is where the questions that our managers ask about how the training is happening. They may not ask, some of them, but it's our duty to really show our performance, which is impacting the business through the training and development of employees. How our training activities can be justified so that we can have such training activities more and more, right? So employees they have this question in their mind, which is, why are we taking this training? How will this course help me in the job? These are the questions that they are uppermost in their mind, right? They should not be feeling treated as they are prisoners, or they are being sent to a training function as a, some break activity from their work, right? That's why I've been mentioning, even the last session, I'm talking about connecting to the participants of the training program much before the training activity starts in the classroom, by pre-read, by talking to them, what are the expectations, even to the employees, managers as well. There has to be this, you may call it hype, this warming process to be done for the employees who take part in the training program, even be it online or offline. This is very, very important. For the managers, first and foremost is the budget, right? How much do we allocate this training for? How will training our employees help with more sales? So this is what they are interested in. They may know at the end of their work thing they could do some good, but we need to see that it is really they're doing some directly some good. Here, I would like to share an example. It was in 2008 when this big Lehman Brothers happened across the world, impacting recruitment in a very big way across organizations, including the organization that I worked in. That was Voltas. I don't mind sharing this example. In that organization, there are about 6 businesses in verticals in that organization. In some of the organizations, the training is a part of a corporate initiative, right? Whereas though it's part of the corporate function, this training function, which I was responsible for, was catering to the respective businesses, and each businesses had their budget, training budget. So when this scare happened, and which also affected business a bit, of course they were trying to do their best, the business to be in competition. They said clearly they will not be releasing any budget for training. So you can imagine my predicament as a head of learning and development, and as I was responsible for managing the training to engaging trainers from across, to consulting trainers, to other training organizations. Here was I with back to the wall situation. How do I continue to train my employees who had a need based on their performance management that was just concluded? So I took up the responsibility of training at least about 60% of the soft, 60-70% of the soft areas, right? And the remaining business areas, I, along with my team members, decided to meet those respective business functions and then trying to see what internally we can develop from their businesses as line managers, training managers, or as to the training of training officers, which facilitating skills training programs, which as otherwise it was called earlier, and providing that business function training to them, right? Some of we also could get into contact with some of the vendors because they also wanted to connect to us in that situation. So some of we were, because of that situation where we were back to the wall, we were fortunately, though situation was unfortunate, fortunately we did a lot of work. And then I would like to put my personal experience here to ensure that this training that I am doing could be, in their perception, as good as training given by other organizations, which were training organizations, which we have to pay them as well, right? I used to go a day in advance to that particular site. It could be a mining site. It could be a organization which was into, serving textile equipment, sales and service of textile equipment. So as to relate to them, spend half a day or day in that site. Those participants who are going to come to my session the next day would be seeing me there, right? So that I develop the required credibility to tell them that, well, I know you, where you work from, where are you from, what are your challenges. Have I been there? Spend a day. So this will relate for them, and then connecting the module to that particular purpose help them to develop the helps me to develop the required credibility and help them to be connected to not just me as a trainer, but also that what they're being trained will be useful for them, right? So even such situations also, we as in HR or L&D will have to adjust and take more this challenge, and then bring up the necessary connect to those employees. Stakeholders are those who are awake there. How will their investments will increase employee increase by training? So how can it improve the customers? This is what probably it will some of the other stakeholders will be doing. The managers will be focused on the budget because they have to invest. The stakeholders will be there, who the line managers or even the customers, they will be seeing, or the people who are facing the customers will need to measure this too. So they are these steps. These are the steps that can be used for developing the training scorecard. How do we measure the data? So it could be employees involved, the hours trained, cost per participants. These could be data points, right? How do we collect the recipient feedback? It's a standard format, right? Which can be called for relevance. You have the feedback tool, feedback sheets. Applicability. How can it be applicable? How can be? Is it more important? How can you report? So incorporate in our feedback at the reaction level the possibility of its application as well. Hitherto, most of the reaction feedbacks will be, how did your training program, was it, how good was it, how was the trainer, was the food good, while the facility is good. It is related to only to that then and there. So the recipient feedback has to be even incorporate. How do they say that applicability of this training, right? How, because that will be the foundation or the requirement for getting more people to be deployed, to be sent over to the training programs, not just those happy sheets. Assessments. There has to be ways of during the course of the training program and post training as well. We can have a pre-training questionnaire, post-training questionnaire. How do we ensure that they are retaining whatever they have learned even after after they're going back to the training program? And we can address questions to their managers. So these are the things that we are taught, and are they applying it? Can you share with them? These are the some. Have they understood it? These are something which we need to also see in terms of the assessments. How are they applying those? It could be behaviors. It could be specific skills. These are things also through assessment from their managers, right? Can be measured. What are monitored return on investments? It may be a bit challenging, but there are means. We can separate out those non-training initiatives which are also being part of those processes there, and can very justifiably see how training has definitely made an impact. If we have to only measure this, advertisements that so many organizations do you think the advertisement really mean whatever revenue has gained has been the measure? Not necessarily. Same way is training. It's almost like advertisements, right? We cannot measure directly the impact, but repeated training, reinforcing, refreshing will definitely help in bigger returns through people, buying our product, which could be our training, right? And of course, reporting. So as I said, do you notice this? There is also a connection to the 6Ds, right? Which were define, design, deliver, deploy, drive transfer, and also document results. right? So reporting is also very important. Have the surveys being done, improving such as on team working, how did it reduce stress, how did it help in reducing conflicts. All these measures can be done. Thankfully, to have this Google and other forms that are available to help in measuring this. So how do we develop this format? Yes,
Yeah, so my hand was raised. So I was going to ask that from the previous slide that for
I
the
hear you.
applicability part, is
One,
it
oh,
audible?
sorry. Oh, sorry. Hello.
Yeah, yeah. Am I audible now?
Yeah, yes, yes.
Yeah, so in the previous slide, so my
Yeah.
question was that in the applicability part, that we are saying that we would like to check on whether it is applicable or not, or how much to what extent are they able to use it in the, real time. So should that be checked only at the stage of assessment is what my understanding is, or because in the feedback, I believe it will be like immediate, right? Feedback is immediate after the training. So how they would be able to, tell that how much applicable is that or not? Or can they still say more than yes or no?
Okay. Now, see, if you have attended a course, right? If the content is such that does not see any relation with applicability, don't you see a new person attending training program will be able to say that? In fact, you will see in some programs a lot of content, some of content which may not have a necessary way of application, right? It may not address to the tools, the methods that you are doing there. It probably apply in some other situation, right? Even as a recipient of a training program, I can also see that this particular knowledge that I've gained or a skill that has been given to me will not be useful to me, right? Because I don't have a different setup there, right? So it can help me to correct as a help a trainer to correct. Okay, what you have got may not be used there. Then I need to see if I'm having a participant coming from certain organization, it does not have that particular system. Then I need to build in my content in such a thing which can be applicable to his or her area. Getting what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At the level 2, it helps me as a trainer to make some changes in the content to address to the requirement of the participant. Great.
Yeah.
Now, application in point. I mean, okay, good thing you asked this question, Rupma. Assessment. There is another point called understood and acted upon. Right?
Yeah, right.
It is also applicability is corrected. So
Yeah, right.
here
So
is
I was
your
seeing more in this point.
yeah. So applicability for me as immediate feedback, right? Assessment is where you're
Mm,
checking with the participant, checking with this manager also at times, right? Has he or she really understood it? Is he acting on it? Whatever we have learned that in the class. Application is much more wholesome in terms of asking directly the managers, particularly in the areas of behavior, right? So if you ask a participant, are you able to change the behavior? He or she may tend to be biased and say, yeah, I'm doing it. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating. It is actually given by the manager or through a 360,
manager. Yeah.
right? So we'll have to gauge the impact of the behaviors through having a survey with the managers, or even have it with the participants with the participants subordinates as well. Got it?
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
So training scorecard format is where you have the training goals. You can see it. Of course, they are not mentioned yet. This is only a template I'm giving you, right? So you can put out those training goals, whatever specifically mentioned. And against those goals, what are the activities you need to write down? And against this, what are the, in fact, it's a dashboard for yourself, right? What are those activities you completed? Because though it is showing as a one picture, one slide, it could be a big Excel sheet by itself for you, right? And what are the training events that you have planned? These are things that we can do it, right? And manager feedback. So you can see against those activities, have you connecting to the manager? Are you taking the feedback in the way that we have just discussed in the previous slide, right? Have you taken feedback? This also can be used as a checklist, right? So one thing, manager may not give time immediately for the feedback, but please do take out time. Walk across and ask, because the manager could have nominated 3 or 4 across over a few months. It's not necessarily you need to do it immediately. Maybe after a month also you can do. What are the next course of actions you need to do based on the feedback and based on the activities you have done. So then based on it, when you want to have the next training event. So this is only an indication for you to share with you a template, which can also be developed for myself for your requirement in the months to come. Okay. So the benefits of
And
impact of
sometimes managers also, they give just general feedback. I mean, I've seen this, that they had 4 candidates or maybe 5 candidates, but they just give like, randomly any feedback, and which is like correlating. So we have to, I think, at that time go back and ask them to really put the right feedback, which is because every person can't be same for them.
exactly. In fact, see what I say. This is because of their, you can call it lethargy or whatever. They tend to give a collective feedback. Like that, sab theek thaak hai. I mean, this is how they generalize this. So it's all the more important. You can give by names. If there are 3 or 4 people who attended from his or her department, by names against the skills that have been imparted in that program, right? In fact, it's all the more important. It could be extending your work. That's why I tell you, we can warm up, have a test, right? We can get them to the, if your local training center, so you can just call them just for about 30 minutes before a training session that is starting the next week, or go to their place. And then just, in fact, today's we have online tools. Those days, without this, we could do it. Go to them or call them and all that. Today, go across, develop a Kahoot quiz or Socrates, or so many things available today, right? You can just give them, get their knowledge as a pre-test, then use the same test at the end of the session. And then you could do the pre-test post differences as well, right? You can even see what about those current, to do a knowledge test, understand their specific skills in that area, their abilities in that area. And then after the training session, by a competence checklist that are developed for that particular area, for the particular function, get the manager to tick those things that he is performing on a Likert scale through again a survey form, right? This will definitely help us. Yes, it increases the work, but we need to demonstrate this to our managers, to our business line managers, to really make them perceive that we mean business, so that we will build a necessary credibility for them, for those people to get more participation from their departments too, because it's success breeds success, right? So they will be more convinced. These are very, very important.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. So the benefits, as you can see, are accountability. You may now try to relate. Some of you are already in a training function. Some of you are also consulting. So having this will build necessary accountability of how our training programs are successful in addressing the competency gaps. No stone unturned approach. Second is the transparency, right? That we are here that to change if required. We are here to change the methodology also required, right? Because as I said, maybe earlier in the thing, that how much you enable people to do it. In fact, our syllabus and our mind methodology here, unfortunately, doesn't get the doing part from you as participants. If we call it as a training session, it's very much important that we incorporate as much opportunities for people to participate through even knowledge tests during the course of the session, and the opportunity to do it, some of the activities possible by role plays. If it is a software, it's a soft skill or a leadership program. But if it's a skill program, if it's project activities, to what extent we are developing changes to address maybe a strategy safety area, which probably has not been taken part in the earlier training module. Cost efficiency. How are the improvements we are trying to do so that we are able to get the quality develop better and then within budget. So that also is being measured, right? People are able to perform at correctly, uh, safely, and in optimum time. And that itself could be reduced cost. To make it help people do it reduced time, it automatically means a reduced cost. If you're able to make people do it safely, I'm talking about typical manufacturing or a project area. Safety is also one area which we can also try to bring in. So this is the famous, most popular Kirkpatrick evaluation model, which most of you are familiar with. The training function. It's also been part of your syllabus in another paper. So the reaction, learning, behavior, and of course the result part, right? So in the reaction level, well, did they enjoy the training? So post-event anecdotal, scorecards, questionnaires, all that. The learning level, how did learning transfer take place? There is something, this is called the commitment logs, or you can call it sankalps, no? Right? So in the training program, I think I mentioned in the first session, writing down my commitments. I will do this. I will do this, right? And this is almost like a diary that they are suggesting them to use it. So over the period of the next 1 month, when did you do this? When did you identify that you could not do it? Whatever. These are all the commitment log sheets. Also, you can give them. And these days you can make it IT. They do not waste paper on it, right? Kahoot quizzes you can develop, as I mentioned earlier, right? For the learning quizzes. And backseat driver tests, or what does it mean? So, for example, you're learning to drive. So when the assessor, or a person who gives you the learning license, he sits either next to you or maybe behind you, and then sees how he or your show are performing, right? So this is also can be done for you or a line manager assigned to see the person job is doing. He will give that feedback. So did the behavior change, as I mentioned earlier? Two behavior scorecards. So you have those metrics again, and what did you see as change in behavior in terms of dealing with his people, in terms of his anger control, or whatever, as a specific thing which was to the program, which was based on which you have provided the training. So some self-guided learning, you can see, you can give that some sort of thing. So what result and all that is also tools that are available. Then coaching also, so you can identify people who are mentors and coaches, and for them to locally, or you can provide yourself as a coach for seeing how these are improving. And as a result, how did the training influence the performance there? So service level agreements, did this individual or this group of individual have a service level agreement with their immediate customers, to their suppliers, or whatever, or to their managers? Did they just translate whatever it and then did some specific things, right? And if they are not mentioned, if the KPI indicators are there, the targets are there, unless these are measured, these are identified, we cannot measure results. So this is something which we need to focus on. Unfortunately, though Kirkpatrick's evaluation model has been existent for the last few decades, right? Most of the training departments are limiting ourselves only to the reaction learning and to some extent the behavior. So return on investment are not being measured in most of the organizations. Behavior is also limited. Most of it is reaction, some bit of it is learning is happening, and a little bit of it is behavior. Rarely on the result. So we have to focus. Of course, this is actually, again, see, results can be achieved only we have all these in place. It cannot be independent. It's not mutually exclusive, right? We need to have this evaluation at every step to ensure we have better results as facilitators for training or an HR.
If
So
I
the
may
role,
ask,
yeah,
sir,
yes,
in
yes.
here, like when we talk about that, ROI, and I agree with you, that's the stage which is hardly followed. And I think maybe that is the reason behind this is that the data would not be enough to really understand what is the ROI. So so if you would like to advise over here that up till what time, let's say a training has been done in March, up till what time, we should give and we should keep on collecting the data from the department so that we can take out some ROI from that, because it would not be immediate. It cannot be like, that you give a feedback in 60 days, and I think, I don't know whether that will be credible to go by one instance, that okay, this is the feedback from the business and based on that we calculate the ROI. So that will be like just one instance. Do you think that is enough, or it should be like going beyond over, like over that?
Very good question you asked. Uh, so the ones at the reaction learning behavior are those which has to where the focus has to be on the training function, right? We have to develop all those tools and all that. But SLAs, KPIs, and targets are those which have to be developed by the line function, right? So
Yeah,
how
right.
well we are connecting to the line, you need to tell them even at the start of the program that we are going to and we need your support and collaboration to ensure that learning transfer takes place, and they are able to see the impact of the training only through having their SLAs or the KPIs. So we'll have talk to the managers concerned. We'll request you to cascade your KPIs or whatever to the employees also. In fact, we can offer our services there if it is not there, and to the help of our HR functions to develop the specific KPIs for those people who are coming to a training program. As a prerequisite also, we can ask those people to come to the classroom with these, so that we will tell them that, so some of the behaviors you will have to do, some of the skills that you are going to practice will have a direct impact on the SLES, right? So this is where we can connect the results. So over the period of 3 months, if you're able, these people are consciously doing it, right? That itself gives a proper, measure for us that our training has given the required given the required impact. So we can start both ways, from top to bottom. Top, of course, also from the bottom, right?
Okay.
Got it, Upma?
Yes, absolutely. And I think I get it now, that is why it is said always that when you have to plan any training, it is important to ask the business, which is like a fourth question, that always important to ask them that how we want to measure the training effectiveness. So that is where it is coming from. And I think when we have the data in advance, we'll be able to measure it better.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
So the role of metrics, as I said earlier, is a broad measurement of an activity so that we compare with other metrics as well. So engagement of time of learners in different courses we can measure. As I said, KPI as a different measure, as a deeper measure, which we also do have, right? So if it is a customer service call center, how can reduction call duration of a training after complaint has been measured, right? So I can give you elaborate it on this. So if a complaint is handled, it takes about so many days, so many minutes, or even hours. How people after attending the training program, the survey done wherein the complaint is addressed in a lesser time. This could be a training program as part of the training program. The training materials can be measured, as I said, KPIs or submetrics. So this is a borrowed from the AHR metric. So these are the various measures. Of course, this printout will be available for you. This PDF will be available. These are various codes you can measure. training cost per employee, return on investment on training, the operational efficiency, learner engagement, how much is engaged in the learning activities, right? Training experience satisfaction, the feedback, whatever. And even our measure of the training function is through our enrollment data. How many are being are enrolling for our training programs, online or offline, whatever. How many people who register for the training are completing the training? How many people dropping off? It's also a very active an activity which requires addressing the gaps in our own training function, right? Maybe the content is not activity oriented, is not really addressing their concerns of the application. So how do you assess the pass rate, right? What is the pass score that you need to do? You must be very specific about the passing. So we need to see it is not too difficult or too easy. There has to be a challenge in the activities, whether it is offline activity or even online activities, that we have to, that the content has to be so made that people take it as a challenge. And even if it is, they have scored less, that will not deter them to take the learning again, right? So that's the way we need to construct the entire content so that people will connect, will take more courses of us and repeat the courses as well in case they not meet the specific pass score for us. And performance post training, these are something which you need to do. And these are the types of training metrics, as I said, as an activity, and they are useful for seeing the variations of the course, and so that we can make improvements in the future programs so that people are engaged and impact the training and all that. Learning experience is to measure the what the employee feels about their learning experience through the surveys and feedback tools. This is what has to be done. And of course, proficiency in business, that's what I missed out, to measure impact of the businesses. So I think in summary, I'm coming to the end of the session here. So we have so far covered, if you go from bottom to top, the various metrics, training metrics that we can deploy. We have discussed about the training strategies, and then the various how they are connected, the training strategy maps, and then how the HR or training strategy maps are helping for the HR scorecard, what we need to do, and how the HR scorecards are connected to the business or the balance scorecard, and what are the balance scorecard perspectives with respect to finance, customer, learning and growth, and also internal processes. And this is how the entire structure of the content has been made. And so with this, I close the session. If you have any specific questions, I'm here to answer. Pardon for the noises around, but this is what happens in an online course. And any questions, I'm here to answer. Thank you for the questions, Sukma, you asked, Yogesh too, and Nimin Sudhakar. Any specific questions before we close today? Yes.
Sir, what we learned that yeah, just one. It is not a question, but just for understanding, sir. This Kirkpatrick model, wherever we see it, is all in the 4 paper we are seeing this. Yes, so that this seems to be very relevant. However, only 4 parameters are there. So this is applicable to throughout the training and development we do, or how it is, sir?
Yeah, it is. It is applicable everywhere. Whatever we do, we need to see how impactful the training has been. Only we see the up till the results. I would suggest to you, if you are part of a training function today, or even HR function, take a pilot, right? So if at all a training program has to be developed, first of all, you need to start actually from the needs, right? So is there any training need for that particular program? Right. First of all, you go from that. Just for the sake of training, you are doing a training program. We will not able to get the results, right? So first of all, when you go to the line, and see what are your pain points. What are your pain points? So give a survey for them. right? What are the pain points?
Correct.
Now you ask them, what is the priority for you? If these are the 5 points, you ask, what is the priority for you? If they say this is people, my people are not motivated, then it's possible that you may have to ask further questions. Now, what do you think about their compensation? What do you think about their work environment?
Mhm.
So if they themselves say that, no, these are the challenges we have, see,
Correct.
they are discussing about salary. So you can't address the salary issue through training program, right? You can't address the
Yes,
work
sir.
environment issue, pollution, work and all that through a training program. See, if you can say that, well, somehow this is something, they're all, they seem to be happy with it, they are okay and all that. But I see that there are things that they're not doing correctly. There are things that they are making mistakes. So these are the things, and they are areas where they seem to be, they're not motivated enough. They are giving all that, but there seems to be some bit of. Then that's where you see, ask for questions. So today there is so much thing available for
Okay.
you in the training function. Questionnaire is available in this order only. How do
Right.
you approach your line? I need not even tell you, right? You have this, okay, how, if I have to
Right.
meet, you ask this question on the search engine, right? If I have to meet line function for a training program, I want to conduct, how do I go about it? You go with him with the checklist, ask this question, then come out with a
Okay.
training program. नहीं, so sometimes blind managers
Okay.
try to take it, यार हम लोग का ना एक program करा दो, एक leadership program करा दो. So that doesn't mean you have to bring a leadership program,
Hmm.
right? Leadership program to be, it should ideally
Right.
start with the leaders. You cannot have the supervisors to do a program for the supervisors or the leadership. It ideally should come from the leaders. उसमें क्योंकि
Correct.
ना ये होता है, the supervisor को you do a program, अरे ठीक है साहब, you're giving this program, this ज्ञान you're giving, what about my manager? He will come back with this question.
Correct.
So you have to come from top to
True.
down. So depending on the questions asked and the answers given, you need to have engage him or her into this conversation, and out of which you need to come out with this that will help you build your credibility and the program that you're going to give, but also in developing the credibility, I mean, to get the buy-in for your manager. हाँ ठीक है, मेरे से इतना बात करने के बाद ये डेवलप कर के दे रहा है, तो मैं मेरा don't you see that I had that program intervention 2 years back? I told you the last program when you attended session. How I evolved a training
Yes.
calendar based on extensive consultation discussions with the directors of the company, right? In fact,
Correct.
they started off with the question: we have reached to 150 crores without all this training program. Huh? In what way this training program will help?
Mhm.
This is the question they asked me point blank. Then I have to engage in conversation. This is even, so they are the people who are investing in the business. They also have the question mark on
Correct.
training, right? What to talk about line manager, uska jo
Right,
aana
sir.
jana, we may not have, right? See,
True.
हमारा काम, I mean, we need to really build in this. In fact, good, congratulate you on taking this training program, this diploma program. It gives you a lot of opportunities to really benefit out of it. Really, I came into the training function as a line manager after doing this program, right? 30 years back.
Right, sir.
So it will definitely help you. Any other question? Thank you.
Great.
Thanks
Great.
very much.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. I'm available even beyond this. Of course, my session ends with you here through this completing the syllabus, but I am available even after. Okay. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, sir.